Hi everyone, and welcome to the first video of a two-part series masterclass on Perturabo, Primarch of the Ironwarriors. In this masterclass, I'm going to be guiding you through each step of the way from building, magnetization, and then painting up, and giving you all the hints, tips, and techniques that I used to create and paint this amazing miniature. So one of my subscribers very kindly reached out to me and asked for a commission on this piece, and I jumped at the chance because in my eyes Perturabo is one of the coolest looking Primarch miniatures out there currently, and I mean that base, wow. And that's what this first video is going to be about, the base itself. So I always say put as much time into the base as you do the actual miniature itself, because when you get a base which is so cool like this, and if not the coolest base on the Primarch range, then yeah, I think it goes without saying that you really need to put some time into this dead decaying knight. Also, really quickly before we get into the video, if you don't want to miss out on part 2, then please make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel, as I wouldn't want you to miss out on this amazing tutorial. And also, you can apply anything that I teach in this video to all your other miniatures, especially if you've got an Iron Warriors army. So firstly, let's talk about Forge World resin itself. Now inside the box you do get a little guide on how to work and operate with Forge World resin, but some little tips I can give you is make sure first of all that you do give this guy a wash, a little bath for Perturabo. All you need to do is get some warm soapy water, like washing up liquid or something, and just get a toothbrush and give it a little scrub down to get all that release agent off, and then it's not going to affect your paint job, because sometimes that can cause some of the paint to peel off. Also, because it is resin and not plastic, the plastic glue isn't going to work on this resin, so you do require super glue. Quick safety as well with resin, obviously if you're going to be drilling and all that sort of stuff, make sure you drill and you are drilling slow, because resin's not something that you really want to be breathing in, like the little dust particles, so obviously do take safety precautions when you're working with this sort of stuff. Now let's talk about sub-assemblies really quick, because I do think sub-assemblies really does help painting. For this one, for Perturabo himself, obviously all the things that I've detached are his bullets on his back. He's got like these chain bullets on his back. I've removed them and I'm going to stick them in a little bit later, just to make life easier to get to like his underparts and all the armor and stuff underneath those sections. Also, his head is free flowing. I'm going to put his head in a little bit later on after. I've pinned one of the feet. This is literally just so I can attach it to like a separate base to paint, but when it comes to the final part, it'll also help secure that miniature into place. Now it does come with two different options for his hand. One is obviously his hammer, which is also pinned down the middle just to give it a bit more security, so that it don't come off or anything. And as you can see, I've also magnetized both hand options. This just applies for Perturabo himself, but we'll get more into this in the second part. Now the base, when you get these Primarch bases, they have like what they call a battle base, which is just like a smaller base which attaches inside it, and then the hero base, which is like the base overall. For this, again, I've magnetized everything, and I've tried to hide some of the magnets with a little bit of like technical paints over there, just so that it all clips together really nice and easy. Some parts of it I've glued, which you'll see in the video, but mostly I have, just to give it a bit more security in like rigidity, if that's a word, rigidity. I've also magnetized parts of the base itself and underneath, just so that when it's in like play or on display, it's just got that little bit more secure, like security to the base itself, and I've just super glued those in. Now, for priming the base, we've literally just done this in Colourforge's Hyrax Brown. Now, there's a reason I went for brown, is because one, it kills two birds with one stone without applying loads of different colour paints, but you can prime it in your usual primer, like your black or whatever you want to do. But for this, I'd like to do mine in brown, as you know, you could easily go into like chipping fluid and stuff, but overall, because it's going to have some rust on it, and the base, like the sand and stuff and the grit on it, is literally going to be brown, it just sort of killed two birds with one stone for this one. And now we're going to move into our first base colour, which is this brown by Tammy. It's more like a khaki, creamy, dark brown than a normal colour. You don't have to do this at this stage. I just wanted to quickly get some colour down and map out all my areas for the night itself. I wanted to try and keep it a little bit more in line with the box art, but I've just literally bought this Tamiya painting and I'm just working my way around it before we move on to our stippling phase. But you don't have to do this airbrushing bit if you don't want. You can literally do this with the stippling with whatever colour that you want, and I'd probably recommend maybe starting off with the next colour that we're going to use, which is karak stone. Now moving on to these two colours, which are, obviously I said, is karak stone and wraith bone. These are the two colours that we're going to primarily use to get our colour on like the armour of the knight. Now, if you've never heard me or watched any of my videos, I'm quite big on this like stippling method. For me, it's a really good way to build up texture, get battle damage, and just create a lot of visual interest on your miniature. Now, obviously, we've done the airbrushing, but you don't have to do that. You can literally start off with the karak stone. Now, you want to be thinning your paints about, 60% paint and 40% water, depending on what paint you've got. And we're literally just going to get a large dry brush and just start attacking and dabbing. Don't worry about going on to other areas and stuff at this point. And we're just going to keep layering it up. You can literally use the same colour for like 2 or 3 layers to build up the opacity. And each layer that we go up creates more visual interest and like chips. And it just overall, as you build this up and start attacking it with your highlights, it all just builds up to this really nice like battle worn armor. Because to me this knight looks like it's literally been blown to pieces and then it's been sat in dirt for a very, very long time, which is what we're going to do. And now what we're going to start to do now is, for like some of the areas that we want to highlight, is start to introduce the wraith bone, and we're going to start to mix that into the original color, and again slowly work our way up so that we've just got wraith bone on our own. And that's just literally going to be applied into like the highlight areas that are going to be like the most shiny spots. So again, I'd really concentrate on like light placement, such as like higher places or places that are going to catch the light. Make sure you're attacking those little bits first. And there's nothing wrong, like I said, we're doing multiple passes of the same colour because we've got that paint thinned. It's all going to add up to this nice, unique, like chipped effect. Now, to break it up a little bit on the canopy section where I think the pilot enters, we're going to use AK Oxford and AK Ultramarine, but this can literally be any colour that you desire. This is one little bit of the personal twist that you can put on it. And again, there's nothing to say that you have to use the colours that I use. It's the techniques that are important. You could literally do your knight in red, purple, pink, whatever colours you desire. But again, we're going to be using that same method for this little canopy piece just to build up those highlights. And then one last little thing, I added a little bit of rust grey for some final highlights. Next up is we're going to get some rust base tones because this thing's absolutely knackered in the ground and we want to get some rust on there. So basically, if you've not seen a video that I put out on rust, just reusing acrylics, I'll link that in the description below if you want to learn more about this effect. But all like the metallic areas and metal areas, and I'm not fussed about going onto certain areas because the more like rust and chips and stuff, the better this thing's going to look. And don't worry about your rocks. But essentially, I've got Baylor brown, and again I'm just stippling this on to all my metallic areas, and then I went up to riser rust or an orange, and I started to dry brush and stipple this on. And this is just going to act as like a nice little rust layer, or like a little like undertone of rust that we can start to work with and build up for our next colours. After you've done like your base like orange and brown, I've just got some lead belcher and I'm just very lightly dry brushing this all over the miniature. Places that I want to be really rusty, I tend to avoid these and just catch like certain edges, but it's just a very, very, very light dry brush. We want it to be more of the orange and brown than we do the actual lead belcher, but it's going to act as a great foundation for us to be able to manipulate and look weathered a little bit later on. Then we're going to move on to some chipping, which is a great little phase, and get as much chips and dinks and danks onto this as you can, and this is a combination of sponge chipping and also just normal like brush, like going in with my brush and just adding some little chips and stuff in there as well. So what I tend to do with my chipping is I tend to go in with a sponge first, get like all the main areas that I want to get, especially like edges and places that are naturally going to be scuffed up, but with this one it's going to be everywhere. And then I go to my brush and I start to like make some of those bigger, get to places that I couldn't reach, make, you know, like all areas look like scratched and stuff. Again, you can go wild with this or as little as you want, but we're literally just going to work our way around and start to add some chips using Rhinox hide. At this point now, we're going to get everything else on the miniature based out. So for like the trim that's on the knight, like on its shoulder, what would be classed as its shoulder pauldron, I've done this in scale 75 decayed metal. Again, this is a colour that can be of your choice. There's a little twist that you can put on it. If you want to follow mine, you can do that, or if you want to use like a gold or like a different bronze, it's entirely up to you. Or even if you want to go for like silvers and metallics, again, this section is up to you. So I'm just working my way around and just base coating all the other little sections that we want to complete on this miniature. So for this, it was the trim on his armour, and then obviously he's got a dead pilot that's obviously died whilst we're operating this thing, and these are colours that, you know, you can literally choose yourself. I mean, for me, I just went for like his gold metallic areas, the same as what I've used for the actual knight itself, and then I've just used like greys and reds just to give it a little bit of visual interest and make that armour pop out a little bit. I think I started off with green originally and then changed my mind, but because there's only so much of it showing and it's going to be covered in dirt and stuff, again, don't pay too much attention to this part. And obviously there's like a bit of computer screens and stuff in there, and using greens and reds and stuff, you can just get them base coated out. But it's just a case of working your way around. You might have to add a couple of layers to this, but it's entirely up to you how you want to do it before we move on to our next phase. Now, for the also you'll see that his Perturabo must have been shooting whilst he's been on this, and there's loads of little bullets. Just ignore them right up until the last point. They're going to be the last thing that we paint, because we're going to weather this base so much that we don't actually want them to be weathered, because it won't really make sense that they've literally felt at floor and instantly become rusty and weathered. So just your little bullet casings, completely ignore them for the time being. But now we're going to move on to weathering this little bad boy up. So for our first layer of weathering, I'm literally going to be using enamels, and these are entirely up to you. As long as you've got like a brown and something like Streak and Grime or Goons Grime by the new ones, which are Villainy Inks, I'm just literally, so I've got Ammo by MIG, Dark Wash and AK Streak and Grime, and I am literally with a brush, no like varnishes or anything like that, literally just slapping it all over the miniature. And I've got a clean little bowl of mineral spirits, and I'm just applying this literally everywhere. And what's nice about thinning it with mineral spirits is, you know, it runs into the crevices and stuff, but for areas that I want to be a little bit more like dirtier, especially than like near the bottom of its base and stuff, you can apply it a little bit thicker. And I'm just don't lick it, it's toxic. And again, you know, take safety precautions when you're using oils and enamels and stuff. If you want to use an airbrush and do it, that's totally fine. But I'm just literally working my way around it with the browns and just mixing them together. Some places are brown, some places are Streak and Grime. It doesn't really matter. I'm just slapping this all over the miniature. Now you want to give it about 15-20 minutes to dry, or you can use a blow dryer like I did in my case. And then we're just going to get some clean mineral spirits, and I've got these makeup, like eye makeup sponge applicators that women use. They're really cheap off Amazon. You can get like a bag of 100 of them for like £6, £5, whatever. And I've just dipped that in some mineral spirits once it's dry, and I just start to dab and work away some of the Streak and Grime. And again, be gentle with this process, because when you're applying oils and enamels and stuff, you know, you don't want to be with the mineral spirits, because we've got no protection here. You just be really gentle with it, and you can do multiple passes to get it to where you need to be. And that's the beauty of oils and enamels. If you want to add more, you can even do that. But once you've done all your removal process, then it is just a case of leaving it about 10-15 minutes or even overnight to fully cure and dry. Next up, we're going to start to add more to that rust, and for this I'm literally just going to use Dirty Down's rust effects. Now if you've never used this product, then it is a fantastic rust product and it's like an all-in-one solution, but if you want to learn more, because I could literally sit here for hours and talk about this product, but if you want to learn more about this product and the ways that it works and the applications that you can use it for, then please check out my Dirty Down's Rust Masterclass, and links for that will be in the description below. But again, I've just worked my way around, and I've also added some little subtle rust streaks here and there coming out of like bullet holes and areas, but you know, you want to be placing this in areas that are going to be more rusted than others. You can go as crazy or as little as you want with this, and if you want to wipe it away, you can just reactivate it with water. Speaking of Dirty Downs, for my areas like on the trim, I wanted to add some verdigris, so I literally just used Dirty Downs verdigris effects to get like your green verdigris on there, and then sometimes it doesn't always go how I want it to, so what I did just as one little additional part of it was get Nylock Oxide by Citadel, and I applied that over top of it, and it just gets you a nice little bit of variation compared to like just the verdigris on its own. Next up, we're going to start to paint some of our rocks. There's not many to paint because it's sort of the colours that we want it to be already. It's just a case of just painting the odd rock here and there, colours that you want it to be. And there were nothing special with this. I just literally dry brushed them in different greys and different browns and like limestoney colours. Again, there isn't that many on this as such, but you know, because it all sort of blends in with what we've already done, it sort of all ties together. But I've literally just gone in there and I painted a couple of the rocks before we move on to our next stage of weathering. Now this stage you can use for both like the rocks and the gravel and stuff, but also we're going to use these pigment powders for the actual like rust as well. Now if you don't know much about pigment powders, they've got such a huge wide range of application, and if you want to learn more about them, I did use these in my Aethon Heavy Sentinel video and ways that you can do it, but I'll briefly go over it in this one as well. So I like to mix mine with loads of different products, so you can just mix them straight out the pot into water and apply it, and it goes on and it dries like this dusty colour, and you can just like wipe it away and it'll stay on there like a bit dusty. But for me, I also like to, because I want them to fix to it, I also get like the weathering powders and mix them with like gloss varnish and some with matte varnish, and again this gives us some beautiful nice surface variation to our miniature. And I also got some browns and some like dust colours and did the same thing for like the rocks and like areas where all like the dust and stuff would be. But again, this is a stage that you can really go crazy with and experiment with, and just, you know, get so much different variation, whether you're going to apply it with a gloss varnish, then put a bit of matte onto it, and then just literally just get the powder straight out the bottle, and you'll see all the different looks and stuff that you can get from this from the pigment powders. Finally, speaking about like the rocks, like the basing itself, one thing I love to do is get actual like basing products. For me, I'm really loving Kraut's cover at the moment, and you can find all these products in my affiliate links below. So if you want to go and check them out, it really helps me out. If you want to go and check them out and purchase something from there, I get a little bit of something back. And also you can use like the great discounts that these companies offer at Element Games and Firestorm Games. But Kraut cover basing, all I've done is sprinkle these into all areas. I've even like gone onto the miniature itself, where like you know, like it's buried in the ground, and sprinkled it on there. And I've used a product by AK called Gravel and Sand Fixer, and what this does, it literally, like when it dries, it just fixes that to your miniature. Now in between, because this is such a detailed miniature, in between like its plates or its armour, you've got like dust and stuff, which is where you can apply this Kraut cover. But obviously we have painted those areas previously, and obviously we've gone over them in wash. But one thing I did was just get some contrast paints like Garagax Sewer, and I airbrushed or hand brushed these areas back to like the colour that they should be, just so it weren't like the colour of the armour for the actual gravel itself. It just didn't make sense, but all I've done is just sprinkled it round and used my gravel and sand fixer to adhere that to the base. And finally, to finish the base off, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the video, was the bullet casings. So for the bullet casings, I literally used AK brass, and I just applied a couple of coats of this all over, and then just to keep it within the grimdark and weather them up slightly, because you don't just want to paint them and then leave them, I got the contrast paint Rattling Grime, and I just gave it a really thin wash and used it, you know, like more like a wash from Citadel, and just applied that to it, and it just leaves it, it goes into the crevices, adds the shadows, and makes everything just look that little bit more grimdark. And that literally fetches us to the end of the basing masterclass. Again, if you've got any questions that you want to know about this miniature or anything that you've seen, please let me know in the comment section below. It'd really help me out. If you want to know more, if there's anything I can help you with, then please let me know in the comment sections below. But I'd like to thank you all for coming along and watching the basing video, and I can't wait to move on to the big boy himself, Perturabo, because I think you're really going to dig it. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button so that you can tune in and be notified when the next video is out for that one, because I don't want you to miss it. And I think you'll really dig some of the other techniques and stuff that we've got going on in that one. So again, thank you for watching this first video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. It'd really help me out if you could just take 1 second just to tap that like button. Please go do it now before we move on. Anyway guys, thanks for watching again, and I will catch you in my next video.